My name is Adriana, and for more than 50 years, I lived a life that could be described as silent, hard-working, and predictable. Widowed for some time, dedicated to cleaning at a small hotel in León, Guanajuato, I never imagined I would become the center of a story many now consider impossible. This story did not begin with sudden fear, but with prolonged trust, cultivated over years without suspicion. During my workdays at the hotel, I met many people, but one woman became constant in my breaks and conversations. She was ordinary, kind, someone who listened and asked precise questions about my family. We shared shifts, brief laughter, and tired silences. Over time, I stopped seeing her as a co-worker and began calling her a friend, never imagining the hidden cost of that closeness. My life outside work was simple. I rented a modest house in a quiet neighborhood where I lived with my youngest daughter, Daniela, and her small son. We had no luxuries, but we had stability. My other children lived in Tijuana, and despite the distance, remained attentive. Everything seemed in order until something began to fracture silently, as if an invisible crack had opened inside the home. The first change was not mine, but Daniela's. Her temperament became unstable, her gaze filled with exhaustion. She returned from work in silence, cried in secret, and avoided conversation. At her job, she began to suffer constant humiliation, unjustified pressure, and treatment that drained her day after day. The house started to feel heavy, as if the air itself had grown dense. As the weeks passed, Daniela isolated herself completely. She locked herself in her room, stopped laughing, and lost interest even in her own son. I watched as something pushed her toward an invisible abyss. I tried to help her, to talk, to support her, but every attempt seemed useless. This was not ordinary sadness. There was a force steadily dragging her into a dark, silent place. When she lost her job, her collapse was total. I watched her identity crumble while I struggled to keep her afloat. I sought professional help, psychologists, treatments, diagnoses. There were better days, but the relapses grew stronger. I kept working, caring for my grandson and watching over her exhausted, without understanding what enemy we were truly facing. My other children insisted on a radical change. Eventually, I agreed for Daniela to travel to Tijuana to escape the environment that seemed to be consuming her. The house fell silent, too silent. I believed the change would save her. I did not know her departure would mark the beginning of something far worse. What had touched her was now turning directly toward me. The first signs were physical. Sudden dizziness, extreme weakness, a constant sensation of exhaustion, as if something were draining my energy from within. I visited doctors, underwent tests, analyses, complete examinations. They all said the same thing. Nothing was wrong. But I knew they were wrong, or worse, that they could not see what was truly destroying me. My body began to fail in inexplicable ways. I lost balance, fell without reason, and pains settled in permanently. My legs swelled until they became hard, heavy, unrecognizable. Walking became agony. At the same time, money disappeared without logical explanation. Expenses, breakdowns, losses, everything collapsed at once, like a coordinated attack. At night, the house no longer felt like mine. I woke with the sensation of being watched, of not being alone. The atmosphere was cold, strange, foreign. One dawn, while speaking with my sister on the phone, my body collapsed into violent convulsions. When I awoke, I was empty, drained. She arrived at sunrise and said something that still echoes. This was not normal and could not wait. The morning after the crisis, my sister did not argue. She simply stated that what was happening went beyond any medical explanation. She had seen my condition, the swelling in my legs, the loss of strength, the emptiness in my eyes. She said she knew similar cases, ignored until they became irreversible. Her voice carried urgency, not fear. For the first time, I felt I was not just ill, but being slowly consumed by something unseen. Without the strength to resist, I agreed to go with her. We entered the car before dawn and headed south toward Veracruz. Someone had recommended a woman known for dealing with situations medicine could not explain. I could barely walk. Every movement required extreme effort, as if my body were carrying a weight that did not belong to it. From the first kilometers, something felt wrong. The car malfunctioned unexpectedly, stalling on flat roads, shutting off without reason. My body reacted strangely. Intense chills despite the heat, sudden dizziness, constant pressure in my head. This was not just a physical journey, there was a persistent sensation that something was following us in silence. During the trip, I received news from Tijuana. Daniela remained unstable, suffering relapses without apparent cause. Even at a distance, she seemed connected to me by an invisible thread of exhaustion and pain. It was as if the same force were affecting us both remotely, slowly draining our vitality. The coincidence began to form a pattern impossible to ignore. The hours dragged on. In certain stretches, the silence inside the car felt unbearably heavy. The road continued, but the world around us seemed suspended, motionless. There was no sense of progress, only displacement. My body weakened with each kilometer, as if resisting that specific destination. Something inside me seemed to know we were approaching a dangerous truth. We arrived at a small village in Veracruz by late afternoon. The place was simple, nearly forgotten. Even so, the air felt dense, charged. The woman's house did not stand out, but the moment I crossed the doorway, my body reacted immediately. Involuntary tremors began, and a deep nausea overtook me without warning. She did not ask many questions. She simply observed me in silence, as if reading something beyond my words. Within minutes, she described my routine, my exhaustion, the financial problems, Daniela's condition, and the constant sensation of being watched. Everything with disturbing precision. She said it had not appeared suddenly, but had been built slowly over time. According to her, my condition was not natural. She spoke of a slow, progressive process designed to avoid suspicion. She warned that I was closer to not getting up again than to recovering. Her words were not dramatic, but clinical, like a final diagnosis delivered too late when the damage has already spread in silence. Then came the statement that changed everything. She said the origin was not unknown. It was someone close to me, a woman who knew my habits, my home, my family, someone who had tried first through my daughter and, when that failed, turned directly to me. My chest tightened. The description pointed to a face I never wanted to question. She described the person with details too precise to ignore. The workplace environment, the false empathy, the excessive interest in my life. In that moment, I understood the danger had never been distant. It had always been beside me, smiling, listening, waiting. My worst nightmare did not come from the unknown, but from someone I called a friend. When I heard that revelation, I felt an intense pressure in my chest, as if the air had been drained from the room. I did not cry. I did not scream. I simply understood. The woman explained that constant proximity had allowed gradual access, a calculated and silent erosion. Nothing had been abrupt. Everything had been done to resemble coincidence, bad luck, emotional fragility, until my body began to surrender without resistance. She said the first target is almost always someone emotionally vulnerable within the family. Daniela had been chosen because she was exposed. When the effect was not definitive, the attention shifted to me. She explained that this kind of action requires patience and constant observation. Someone who listens too much, asks too many questions, and knows exactly when to act without raising suspicion. The work she would begin was neither simple nor quick. I received detailed instructions, exact schedules, specific objects, and a clear warning. Any hesitation could worsen my condition. According to her, This was not about belief, but about interrupting an ongoing process, something already installed, already feeding, that needed to be confronted before becoming irreversible. As we left her house, a sense of urgency followed us. On the return trip, the car malfunctioned again in dangerous ways. The brakes responded late, the engine lost power at critical moments. It was not panic. It was the constant impression of resistance, as if the return itself were being obstructed by something that did not want to be interrupted. During the journey, I remained in absolute silence. My mind revisited every conversation, every pause at work, every detail that once seemed insignificant. The pieces began to fit together with disturbing clarity. That friendship had never been built on affinity, but on access. I had not been chosen by chance, and that realization made everything far more unsettling. We arrived back in Lyon late at night. My body was still heavy, but something had changed. My legs remained swollen yet less rigid. It was not recovery, but partial relief, as if some pressure had eased. Even so, the atmosphere inside the house felt wrong. The silence offered no rest, only expectation, as though something were waiting for the next move. I prepared everything exactly as instructed. Each object placed precisely, each step followed without hesitation. The house seemed to absorb the ritual in an unsettling stillness. No external noise, no wind. The walls felt as though they contained something old, accumulated. For the first time, I knew with certainty that this was not exhaustion or illness. When I lay down, fatigue did not bring immediate sleep. As soon as I closed my eyes, a sudden weight pressed against my chest. My breathing shortened. I tried to move, but my body would not fully respond. There was a presence nearby, unseen but undeniable. An intense cold rose slowly from my legs to my neck. I do not know how long it lasted. When control returned, I was drenched in sweat, my heart racing. The sensation of being watched remained. The room felt smaller, compressed. Nothing was out of place, yet something had passed through. For the first time, I understood this experience was neither symbolic nor psychological. It was real. That night, I understood the process would not end quickly. What had been initiated by someone I trusted would require ongoing confrontation. My home was no longer just a physical space, but a silent battleground. And the most frightening truth was clear: my worst nightmare had not ended. It was only beginning to reveal itself. In the days that followed, my body reacted irregularly. Moments of lightness were followed by abrupt relapses. The woman in Veracruz had warned me this would happen. It was like removing something deeply rooted. I began noticing details I had previously ignored. Objects shifted, subtle noises emerged at night, and the sensation of presence persisted even during the day. At work, I encountered that woman again. Her behavior appeared unchanged, yet something in her gaze was different. She observed more and spoke less. When our conversation stopped, I sensed silent discomfort. Indirect questions followed, subtle remarks about my health, my daughter, my home. Each sentence seemed to measure something, as if assessing whether the process had truly been disrupted. I began recording dates, symptoms, and events. A pattern became evident. Whenever there was direct contact or prolonged proximity, my body responded with extreme weakness. When I kept my distance, relief followed. It was not coincidence. The relationship between presence and physical collapse became impossible to deny, even for someone who had never believed in anything beyond the visible. Over time, others at the hotel began reporting similar experiences: sudden financial problems, unexplained family conflicts, unexpected illnesses. Nothing severe enough to attract attention, yet too frequent to ignore. That woman's name surfaced repeatedly at the edges of these stories, like a silent link connecting multiple forms of deterioration. I decided to distance myself completely. I avoided contact, changed schedules, reduced any interaction. The reaction was immediate. attempts to approach me, indirect messages, an insistence that had never existed before. When she realized she had lost access, her expression changed. It was not anger, it was frustration, like someone watching a long-standing plan slowly unravel. My recovery was gradual, but real. The swelling in my legs slowly decreased, my balance returned, and the constant weight on my chest lessened. Daniela also showed improvement from a distance, not complete, but noticeable. That invisible connection seemed to weaken as the distance remained. The logic was disturbing but undeniable. The threat depended on proximity. I never confronted that woman. There were no accusations, no scenes. I understood that some truths do not need to be spoken to be recognized. The real danger was not exposure, but rupture. Cutting the bond was the only defense. Some people do not need to touch to cause harm. It is enough to observe, to know, and to wait. Today, reviewing everything I lived through, I understand that the most effective terror does not appear monstrous. It disguises itself as friendship, listening, and empathy. It grows slowly, exploiting vulnerability until the victim begins to doubt herself. That is how I almost lost my daughter. That is how I almost lost my life without knowing why. This account does not seek to convince, but to record. Some stories remain hidden because they defy simple explanations. Not every attack leaves visible marks. Some operate through trust, silence, and constant closeness. When we finally notice, the damage is already done, and the aggressor remains there, smiling, untouched, as if nothing ever happened. My worst nightmare was not an unknown entity or an inexplicable event. It was realizing the danger sat beside me, shared my breaks, listened to my pain, and fed on it. The true face of terror revealed itself too late. Sometimes, evil does not come from outside. It sits next to you and accepts being called a friend.